Hi, I'm Tinny from Mini Bowl Design, and today I'm going to cook up something just off the cuff, whatever, like I'd cook if I was out on the trail. Now, I got a lot of things to work with here that I'd normally have in my pack, so I'm just basically going to give you some idea of how I operate on my pack. I throw a bunch of this stuff in. This is a dehydrated and vacuum sealed container of Niblets corn, not the regular Niblets, but they make one that's sweet, and that's one I prefer. The flavor comes out a little bit more in the end product. And this is a quarter of a pound of hamburger gravel, just your standard issue. And for you guys that don't know what hamburger gravel is, that's simply a very lean hamburger that's been dehydrated. All the fat removed and dehydrated, and enough fat has been removed so this stuff good for 2-3 years. I've never had any of it go bad. And just to add a little interest to the whole thing, I've got a bunch of dehydrated refried beans here, and I'm going to throw those in. I know, but you just got to trust me on this. It really adds a lot to the whole thing. That's quite spicy. Okay, now what I'm going to do to that is I'm going to add enough water like Babelfish 5 does, and then another half inch over the top of it. Then I'm going to put in a cup of water on top of that. Okay, now I immediately see that that's not going to work because that pot's not big enough. But since this is a 2-pot meal, I'll just dump it over. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to boil this, get this boiling, and let it boil until everything is good and tender. And I'm sure that I've got it good and tender. Then we'll go to step 2. So let's get this stove fired up. This is just a standard issue M2. Actually, it's not standard issue because this is the one with the safety base on it. My personal model is only one in the world, and I own it. And good thing, because I just ran it over too, and the base has got a fair amount of alcohol in it. So, I'll get this boiling, and once I get this stuff tenderized, we'll go to step 2. Okay, we get this up to a boil, and it's simmering along. Now I'm going to boil this long enough so that all these dehydrated vegetables become completely rehydrated. And I think probably the best way to do that is to just let these set in this boiling water and let them rehydrate that way. I really don't see any advantage to continuing to burn the stove for that. Now, I'm struck immediately by what a nice pot this is, and how nice it is and controllable with the stove, having the remote feed and everything. The reason I say that is you got to realize I make these every day, but it's very seldom I ever actually get to sit down and use one. And this is the first time I've really cooked a meal with an Imusa pot. And although I have used the M2 for quite a few boil tests, I don't know if I've ever actually cooked anything with it since I designed this one. So this is really fun to me, and I'm really enjoying it. So this isn't real pretty, obviously, but I'll let you look at it. I'm that kind of guy. Try not to fog up the screen here. Give her a stir. We've got refried beans and hamburger and corn in there. Now this will eventually, after maybe 10 minutes, will completely rehydrate. And once it does, I know this is going to sound crazy. Of course, most everything I do does sound crazy. But once this does fully rehydrate, the water will still be very hot, hotter than you'd probably want to eat. So what I'm going to do at that point in time is I'm going to put in a half a package of instant potatoes. It'll thicken it all up, and the corn and the hamburger and the potatoes will all get together. kind of like a shepherd's pie. And then I got a few more tricks up my sleeve after that. So I'm going to set this off to the side, and I'm going to start with my second pot. And I'm going to put, a scant cup of water in that. Maybe a little more. And I'm going to bring that to a boil, and then we'll move on to step 2. Great little stove. I really enjoy this M2. I enjoy just sitting here with the M2 running and feeding it, watching it burn back, and then refueling it and watch it go out until it burns bright blue. I'm kind of a bit of a fanatic about flames, and I tend to keep refueling and keep that donut blue all the time to get the maximum heat out of it. It's really not that much of an advantage to it, but I just like doing it. It's fun. You get to play with the stove, and that's half the fun of cooking anyway. So we'll bring this up to a rolling boil, and then we'll move on to step 2, step 3, whatever. And probably by the time we get that done, this will be all rehydrated, and we can finish up. Okay, we've got this water at a rolling boil, and I want to check this and see how we're doing here. Yeah, that's ready. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, that extra cup of water I put in here, that's just about right for a half a package of potatoes to rehydrate. So I'm going to stir those right in. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. Oh yeah, that's thickened her right up. Now you got to realize, besides the hamburger and the corn, I've got the refried beans in here, which kind of give you a little bit of a beanie background, but mostly they're spice. So there, that thickened right up nicely. I got to tell you, it's one of my favorite dishes. Okay, next thing I want to do is I've got this water boiling pretty crazy here, and I've got a package of, this is my old standby. It's been in the drawer so long, it's all trying to shake it down, is just regular McCormick pork gravy. So we're going to rip the lid off of that and try to dump that in there into this boiling water. And see if we can't bring that to some kind of a thickened sauce. I think we can get it to come around and thicken up. So rather than you just sitting here watching me stir this gravy for the next 2 or 3 minutes, I'm going to turn the camera off, and when I get the gravy thick, I'll turn the camera back on. Okay, I've had this gravy on simmer for a little while, and I've got it thickened up fairly thick. Probably about as thick as store-bought and powdered gravy is going to get. It's not bad. So, let me move the camera in here. Okay, here's my mashed potatoes, corn, hamburger, and refried beans, all well mixed up. See if I can get it under the camera here, you can see it. Now what I'm going to do this next is simply going to pour some gravy over it. There we go. Now, this, I know, doesn't look that great, but I got to tell you, this is one of my favorite meals. Let me move the camera back here. I really like this meal. Now, I know this sounds kind of crazy, but first thing I got to tell you is I wouldn't normally make this much at one time. It looked good for the camera and everything, but this is enough for Sue and I both. And this is something that sometimes we make with potatoes, and sometimes we make with rice. I prefer it with potatoes. Sue prefers it with rice. It usually gets made with rice, but I didn't have any rice today, so I made it with potatoes. But either way, it's it's a good meal. The refried beans add all the spice. It's rather an odd spice, but it's fairly hot, smooth, gravy, meaty, potatoey, corny. Like Babel Fish 5 says, leaves that feeling in your mouth. So this gives you some idea of how I cook out on the trail. It's usually a hodgepodge of different things. I'm not real structured. I'll throw a bunch of this stuff in my pack, and when I get where I'm going, depending on what mood I'm in, I can make the amount I want, and I can make it the way I want. I'm not pre-structured like with a dehydrated meal that, you know, and if I was going to go just overnight, I'd probably take 1 or 2 dehydrated meals in this pot with me. But if I was going to goof around and experiment and actually go backpacking to cook, I'd take both these pots with me. If I could say anything about this, it's too hot to eat. But it's really good. Really. I have no problem with it at all. So I'm Tinny from Mini Bull Design. Get out and hike. Take a friend. Enjoy the great outdoors. And more important than anything, enjoy some really great meals that you cook on your alcohol stove. And try to have a really great day. And don't forget, leave no trace. Pack in, pack out. Bye-bye.